Hi, it's Jessamy and welcome to Lit Crush. Today I want to talk a little bit about The Books of Jacob by Olga Tokarczuk. She is a Nobel Prize winning author. This was named as kind of her magnum opus by the Nobel Committee. It's the story of a Jewish messianic cult or sect, depending on your point of view, in the 18th century Poland, Turkey, um, and surrounding countries. It focuses on Jacob Frank, who is a real man that lived in history that did lead a religious group of people that managed to integrate parts of Islam, Roman Catholicism, and sort of mystical Judaism into a bit of a sex cult. It's quite an epic historical literary book. It is a challenging read. I would say if you got through Moby Dick and War and Peace and enjoyed them and like that kind of diving deep, um, if you like a story with, hundreds of characters that you don't necessarily have to remember each one, this might be for you. And I was thinking rather than offer my thoughts on mysticism or whether a non-Jewish person should write a Jewish story or all the things that all the critiques mentioned, I would offer some tips for if you want to read this book, if you want to see what all the fuss is about. There are a few things you can do to make it a little bit easier. So, tip number one, I would say just give in to confusion. You are going to meet hundreds, if not thousands, of people in this book. It's clear that she did a lot of research when she was writing it. She wanted to give it the texture of history. There are actually illustrations, engravings that she, must have gotten from actual archives to give you some kind of that historical feeling to the text, but within that she uses natural 21st century sounding dialogue in this historical context to give life to each of these historical names that she found in an archive. um you're not going to remember half the people, you're not going to remember 10% of the people, but you will eventually start to pick out who's important. Now, obviously Jacob Frank himself is the main character, and then his key supporters, men and women, will keep coming to the front, and eventually their ancestors. Uh, if there is a conscience or an observer or a sort of a God's eye view, that would be Yenta, who is a woman in this community who is dying just as a family puts on a wedding. And Yenta is slowly slipping into a coma, and as she slips into the coma, she can start to see with the eye of God, basically, everything that's going on in relation to Jacob. And we think maybe everything on earth, but especially with regards to this group of people she belongs to. And the family can't bury her because she's just still barely alive. Her eyes are still moving. And she sees everything that's going on. And she's sort of the framework, that she gives us permission to drop in and see everybody's mind, I think. um the sections with Yenta really make the book worthwhile to me. I mean, this is a compassionate eye. This is an eye that sees everything on earth but doesn't know what happens after earth. This is a soul that's on the cusp of having her own adventure, and we never find out exactly what happens. So I would say pick out a few characters that you care about, that you like, and just notice when they crop up again. Another good thing to do is just write in this book. Write it up, underline as you go, because you're gonna find your mind wandering. Like, what does this have to do with the main story? Well, there's you can't connect it all directly. It's more like flowing in a river. The river will wander this way or that. You'll have a mood over here, you'll have a mood over there. And to keep myself grounded, I would just underline bits of text that I thought were clever or interesting or stood out to me. And so if I ever go back and reread it, I'll know, what came out at me. Uh, this would probably be a really good reread. It's a commitment though. It's like 950 pages, so probably not for everybody, but I think I would probably understand the story even better the second time. And then my final bit of advice would be, I had recently talked about W.G. Sebald's Austerlitz, which is another story about um, Jewish people that time in the 20th century and the consequences, the epic kind of dynastic problems that cascaded after the Holocaust. I can't believe I'm saying this, but that book actually has a much narrower scope than this one. This one has to do with a small group of people that kind of spread all over the world for centuries. Um, I would say Sebald had a very specific thing to say about the Holocaust, that it has reverberating consequences for generations and one can never atone. And I think the fact that he wasn't Jewish made that book, you kind of read it in a more guarded way. Like, well, you're choosing this group of people to talk about. What do you know about it? In his case, I think he was trying to atone for the Holocaust. In this book, I think Olga is just simply fascinated by this group of people and wants to view them with a compassionate eye, even from the 21st century. And I think, I can sort of see why places like Jewish Telegraphic Agency or even maybe Tablet or, these Jewish publications say, like, great, thanks for the story about our people, but like, it's never going to quite achieve the level of veracity that maybe we could achieve ourselves. So, but I don't want to say don't read this book because it's a beautiful piece of art. But I would say supplement, read more about Jewish history through literature and history books themselves. So, the Hebrew Bible, I mean, this is like, here is this ancient collection of texts translated by a scholar from America, Robert Alter. He is Jewish. He is a scholar in Hebrew, and he creates beautiful, intelligible, poetic translation of the original Hebrew Bible. And the canon will be slightly different to the Protestant reader. It will be slightly different from the books of the Bible you learned in Sunday school. Just enjoy the ride. You're going to meet new characters that you've never met before. But really, it's his footnotes that make this just such an amazing read. You get so much context about the way Jewish scholars have thought about these texts over history. He will provide you with two, three, four interpretations by various scholars from different centuries, different millennia. It's stunning. So I would say this is an excellent start. Secondly, and this is a book I have not finished yet. I've begun and I've watched a documentary on TV called The Story of the Jews. Simon Shema is the host and author of this book, and he talks about kind of the way and the reasons and the history behind the movement of the Jewish people and what conflicts they were facing, and I think kind of what life means to the Jewish people throughout the world. And he speaks very passionately about specific issues like the issue of Israel, and he has very clear opinions on it. So you're going to have a specific point of view in this book, really pointed, and but also with like masterful storytelling. So I'm excited to finish this one up. If you've read this one or the Hebrew Bible, or if you've dipped into Olga Tokarczuk, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear more. If you're a visitor to the site, please subscribe so I know people are out there reading, and drop a comment. I love to hear from all of you. So thanks so much. That's it for now, and thanks for listening to Lit Crush. We'll see you again next time.